All right, everybody, welcome to the Dirty 30 podcast number 4. I'm Kenny Welch and my cohort buddies, partners in crime, Mr. Alden Robinson and Jonathan Abrahams, and our special guest, part of our fantastic cohorts, Brittany Bird. Welcome, everybody.
Woo!
Woo! Yes.
Clap, 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 clap.
Oh, what was this, fourth class? Fourth class we're in?
Yep.
Number 4.
Yes.
How we doing so far?
Well, I guess I'll jump in. I think time management, I'm learning what to do and what not to do. Definitely, you cannot procrastinate in the DBA program. You have to plan ahead. But actually learning, so that is a good thing. One of the things I would say, I had my dissertation topic, I thought, like at the very first class. Now it might be evolving potentially, and so I think it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
What do you guys
I'll
think?
piggyback back off of that, John, and I'm definitely starting to settle in a little bit more with, time management as far as work, personal life, and schoolwork. I definitely think once you get to number 4, you start to realize the pace in the DBA program a little bit better. Um, Strenuous in the first 2, right? Like, oh God, like this type of coursework on top of managing, or some of us are in upper echelons of our careers, so it's like it was going to be tough, but I feel like now right in we're starting to settle in, so I definitely feel that as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I think learning time management has been huge. Um, Definitely, I think kind of get a little bit more comfortable with, like, kind of Alden said, Jonathan, you as well, the work, personal life, school, making sure that all the deadlines are met, because that's, the big part of it. And I think really for me, I don't know why, but for this class, I feel definitely, kind of the weight of actually being a doctoral student. I don't know why, it just kind of seems to be, just now sitting in, and it's kind of like, oh wow, like this is crazy. We're going on 4 classes in, and the work is no joke, and what's expected of us is, very serious, and I'm really enjoying it. It's great.
You're probably feeling that weight because it's probably the most writing that we've had to do in one class, I think probably in this 8-week period. So all
Yes.
in one 8-week period. So which is cool. It's nice to, if you can write, within 8 weeks, whatever many papers or pages we have to write, then we know we could do the same thing when it comes to our dissertation, hopefully. So should be a
Yes.
piece of cake.
What we hope for.
Right,
I think here in the fourth class, I've kind of said, you know what? I have this dissertation idea and everybody knows what it is. But I think now I'm starting to narrow it down to go, okay, maybe violence towards employees at nursing homes in facilities with less than 60 residents in towns with less than. So it's not such a broad topic. I'm starting to think, make it as simple as I possibly can, get it done. You can do all kinds of other crazy writing stuff whenever, but just narrow it down and make it simple. And that every time we do something in every class, I kind of go, okay, let me take it down a little bit further. And so, we definitely need all these classes and all that writing experience to be able to write the dissertation at the end. But I feel like when we're ready to write the dissertation, it's just the stuff, it's just going to flow. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm being naive or optimistic, but I think it's just going to flow because we've been so used to writing lit reviews, abstracts. Obviously, I probably have 500 references already saved in Zotero. So, so we're going to have all that stuff. So I'm excited. I'm with you, Brittany. I think that he's into this program. It's like, now I really feel like a doctoral student because we're doing the work, we're getting the paper, moving along.
I have to say, I'm still, man, I don't know if I just get a little anxious or I just get a little bit jealous that everybody just knows the dissertation, and I'm still kind of like in the in the woods about mine because I have not. Obviously, I have my topic, and it's something that I think near and dear to me that I want to explore and I want to be able to get to the root cause of just understanding it. But the reality is, I just feel like when we get closer and closer to that time, because I understand so much now about you know, the research into it, I just feel like I'm going to want to explore other topics. Like I'm going to want to apply everything that we're learning to something that might jump out to me later on, and not just in the beginning what I figured that I might like. And I think that's okay, but I get a little bit worried about that. I think that's anxiety that when we get closer to it, am I really going to be willing to spend all the time and research that I thought I was going to do on the topic, or am I going to change it last minute? So I'm still kind of in the woods about it.
Well, man, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I had a topic, like I said, but now I feel like it could still evolve for sure. And I think that's the whole point of all the education that we're learning. Like right now, it starts off a lot broader. We're taking these broad classes, and then it's narrowing down. Well, it's not really narrowing down, but because we study so many aspects of our potential topic, we could see different aspects of it, and that's we might want to add it or subtract it away, different items or different things from what our dissertation topic might be. And so I know for me, I'm thinking, the more I research, the more I realize, like, I want to study more like small business or the impact of, different forms of either leadership or different organizational behavior traits or something on like small businesses and their growth and everything. But the more I study, the more I see so many potential opportunities of things to study, to really dig in on. And so it is hard to figure out, okay, do I want to study motivation? Do I want to study maybe transformational leadership or
Yeah,
servant leadership? Or do I want to study like, effectiveness of this? You just don't know. Like, okay, which one do I grab a hold of and write 150 pages worth of stuff on? It's hard to decide.
It is, and
no,
with
I agree
me,
with you.
mine's a little bit
It
different,
it may
but
seem like I have my discipline. Go ahead, Brittany.
I was, okay, I was just going to say for me, it's a little bit different too, because, everybody, I feel like I started the doctoral program and I had such a strong, mindset of, okay, this is what I want my dissertation to be on, unethical leadership in law enforcement. And, I went with it so strong. And then, I felt like everybody kind of has taken time to pinpoint and kind of narrow down what they want to do. So I feel like it's helped me in a way to be like, okay, so, we all have these great ideas and we all, have, these broad ideas, as great as they are, but just kind of hearing everybody say, well, I'm not sure. I want to kind of focus in on this and focus in on that has really helped me as well, kind of look at it in a different perspective. So I think it's great hearing from, everybody in our cohort. I think it's great to kind of hear where they're at because it's helped me significantly. So even just with what you just said, Alden, like it's helpful because it's like it keeps me thinking like, okay, how can I modify this or what can I do?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
it may sound like I have my dissertation all planned out, but there are days I'm like, that would make a really good dissertation. That would make a really good
Yes.
dissertation. So, it's not always this is what I want to do. There's always these ideas that come in my head, and I'm like, maybe I'll do this. And I mentioned to my wife, she's like, stick with what you know. Stop reinventing the wheel. But I'm sure that's common. I'm sure it's common for everybody to kind of be like, this is what I want to do, but I'm not 100% sure. And we have a little bit of time to think about it. So I think you're all right, man. I think you're probably overthinking it.
Yeah. So Brittany is her first time joining us tonight. So obviously, in the first couple of episodes that we've done, we kind of talked about some of the things that why we obviously wanted to go through this journey, and meeting everyone that we've met. Just trying to going back to that a little bit, just for you, Brittany. Can you let the viewers know why you chose to do this DBA program specifically?
Okay, yes, absolutely. So I am several reasons why I chose the DBA. One, I really enjoyed, I know this is going to sound crazy to say, but I really enjoyed my master's program with St. Leo. I learned a lot, and I knew that I just didn't want to stop at my master's. I've always, since high school, have wanted to achieve to become a doctor. So when I heard that St. Leo had a doctorate in business, I just thought, wow, that's perfect because I'm passionate about business, and I think that this is great. And I'm also going to be the first doctor in my family. So I think that that's really cool. That's another motivation for me.
Awesome.
And being a single parent and having a daughter, I want to set that, to show her that you can do anything because that's important for me. So I'm really excited to be doing it. So that's kind of more the personal reason why I did it. And I've had a very great supportive family that has helped me kind of make this decision. And my dad achieved his bachelor's and master's through St. Leo. And watching him in school and everything that he's done with criminal justice, that's what his master's is in, and everything that he did really just kind of inspired me to keep going. So seeing him continue wanted made me continue. So I'm excited to be doing it. So from where I have a professional setting, why I wanted to do it is I knew that I want to eventually become a director, a manager, somewhere high, and that I have influence because being in the current job that I am in now, um, I I really have a passion for employees and morale and ethical leadership. I do work in a law enforcement agency, so I have been able to kind of combine my passion for law enforcement with business. And I really am excited to hopefully I want to be able to get my doctorate and be able to consult for law enforcement agencies to be able to help them as far as productive leadership, just ethical leadership and motivation for their employees. Because law enforcement is a really stressful job. It has a bad rap a lot of times, and it's always in public view, and it's not always the best. So I kind of want to be able to step in and help try to see how we can fix that internally. So that's a little bit about why I picked to go on this journey.
Thank you for sharing.
I love that.
Absolutely.
It's solid. And that's one of the amazing things about the program too, is just that, you can really impact the community that you're already in or the workplace that you're already in. It's real world application. Um, and
Yes.
but I also love the familial aspect of it with, your dad. He started in with getting his master's, and then you're getting your doctorate, and you're being an
Yes.
example to your daughter. I mean, those are some of the other things that really are really motivating, um,
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Yes.
One of the things I was going to ask you, so I know you've also find this course or these courses difficult and stuff like that, but what I have noticed is that you manage to always seem to be like at least a little bit ahead, or like at least not behind. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask was like, what is your strategy of, like, how do you plan out your, I guess, your schedule, or like your the way that you study? So when you first see a class, walk me through kind of like what your process is in organizing how you're going to complete some of those different deadlines and tasks.
Okay, of course. I don't feel, I'm glad thank you for the compliment if you feel that I'm ahead. I constantly feel like I'm drowning, but I'm glad that my appearance is not that. So when we first start a class, my initial thing that I do, as crazy as it sounds, is I immediately go to the grades and I see how many graded assignments there are in the class to kind of give myself like a mental, compare like, okay, we've got, X amount of discussions. Usually, it's typically 8. I see how many papers, if we have any projects, anything like that that's due. I also, for me mentally, I look at how much the grade counts for the assignments because, if it's really, really high, then I know like, okay, like you can't mess up. I want to stay with, the dirty 30 cohort. So there's no room for a slip up here. So what I
Right.
do is usually within the first week, I start trying to figure out, or at least, second, third week, whenever, usually when we email our professors or we post it to the discussion forum, whatever they want to look for approval for one of our bigger assignments. Like in this class, it would be our research paper. So, how we just presented last week, we posted what our question was. Once that gets approved, I usually go ahead and start working on it. So all through the remainder of the 6 weeks, 5 weeks, however long that I have, I go ahead and start with it. Um, I will sometimes do that with all assignments. I know that's a little bit risky because, if it's not clearly stated in the syllabus or if the teacher's not told you directly up front what it is, it's a little bit difficult, but I do try to go ahead and at least get an outline started. Um, that's something that I have found that's been helpful for me on top of school and, trying to make the deadlines work. That's, very crazy. I have very crazy hours. I've also been dealing with, different medical challenges that have put me out. So definitely trying to make sure that I stay ahead is crucial. So just really setting aside a few hours of my day or waking up, an extra 2 hours early or staying up late an extra 2 hours and making sure that, my outline's done or I get another page done or at least I read another article or I make some more notes. That has seemed to be effective. So that's usually what I do. But I still feel like
I
I'm
love
constantly
that.
drowning.
Hey,
Yeah,
well,
Like
that
now
this
we got the secret recipe.
we
it
do. We do.
Yeah,
crazy the
you
amount of
just
work
heard.
going from undergrad, even from master's to doctorate, the difference in the coursework. And, not that it's a bad thing, you're learning so much. And I love reading, the articles and I love the Zoom meetings that we're having and the discussions, but it's a whole different ball game than,
Mm.
what you think in your mind the doctorate program is. And then once you actually get into it, you're like, wow, this is not what I thought.
That's
But
interesting that you say that. Oh, go ahead.
that's a good strategy, though. I mean, seriously, we've
Mhm.
always wondered how the genius of our cohort did it. Now we know. Now we know the secret behind.
Y'all
Now
are
we
too nice.
know.
Y'all are too nice.
The secret is work harder. Okay, I mean that's work harder and map out your stuff before you do it. I mean, but there's so much truth to that because I wouldn't say easy, but at least in my undergrad and even some in the masters, you could kind of see a thing and you could kind of do like a all-nighter and still kind
Mhm.
of pull it off and you do decent, but you can't really, it's just impossible to do
Oh,
that with this
not
program,
here.
especially with the amount of research. It's like half the battle, and that's probably another thing I'm learning is how to research better. But half the battle is finding like just decent references. You're like, what am I going to use for this paper? And you're like going through like hours you just spend just trying to find a few decent articles.
And I
You know
feel
what?
like I picked. Go ahead, Kitty.
Go
Oh
ahead,
no,
Bree.
go ahead. I think that's figuring it out. Research. I think that's the hard part because I'll research. I'll look at like 5 articles and nothing will be in there. Why didn't I say this is tarot anyway? Then I start saving everything. I remember to save everything, but yeah, finding the best way to research that's a tough one.
It's extremely difficult. And I feel that, with trying to do, I've been so specific up until this point with ethical leadership within law enforcement. So I feel like when I go to search to, try to find, articles that have been published in the past 5 years or that, haven't, that are empirical and, all these different things that we're looking for. And I feel like I find ethical leadership in literally everything else. It could be, public waste. It could be healthcare. It could be, business owner. But when it comes to law enforcement, it's like, oh, there's no recent articles. And I'm like, okay, let me reword this. Let me look at a broader topic, because it's difficult to find. There's so many um, specific things like little check boxes that you have to meet when you research these articles. And I think that that's something that I personally underestimated coming into the doctorate program. I was like, oh, anybody can go on Google Scholar or anybody can go to the database on St. Leo. Like, whoa, this is great. And then you get to it, and it's like, no, and I learned so much from Dr. Woods. Like, wow, how you catch things that, are not credible and, why we can't use this. And we have to find things more, recent. It's been a big learning curve, but I agree with Jonathan, Kenny, you most definitely that the research I think is one of the hardest parts for sure.
Yeah, no, that's very true. One thing I was going to ask, I don't know, I think Kenny, you're also are you an alumni of St. Leo Master's Program too, or no? Um,
Yes,
like,
yes.
yes. Okay. And so both of you guys since you've had that experience with the master's degree program, so you all do see a pretty significant difference between your this graduate, or I guess doctoral work, and then master's degree work, as well, being from the same school, or have you seen some like overlap between, the what expectations and stuff are?
Kenny, do you want to answer? Do you want to answer first?
Sure. I think it's the same, kind of the same learning style, but I think that you're gonna, I felt like if we just showed up for class and did the work, we got a master's degree. And I think that with this one, you're gonna have to not only show up for class, you're gonna have to do the research, you have to put in the work, and you're gonna have to really apply it and think about what you're doing. But at the same time, you see, I'm watching this cohort kind of evolve, and you read our discussions. If you read our first ones in the first class and you read them in this class, our writing is evolving, and you can tell that it's evolving when we read each other's stuff every week. And so I think it definitely leads to more critical thinking and more learning than the master's degree program.
Gotcha.
I will say, coming from the master's program over to the doctoral, just in a sense, I feel like there is some comfortability there, just because we're familiar with the school. Now it may be a little bit different because Kenny, I don't remember. Did you go straight in from master's to your doctorate? I don't recall.
No, no, I graduated 2019 with my master's, and I just waited until last year to start my doctorate. So
Okay. So, but I mean, for the most part, would you say that things have kind of, I mean, the comfortability as far as the school, kind of the expectations, like it was pretty easy to recall? Okay.
it,
Because
it
for
is.
me,
I mean, I think the yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, coming from the master's, and I rolled right into my doctorate program, I will say that was great in the aspect of, you kind of, like Kenny said, there's comfortability with it. You kind of know what's expected, but you definitely see a difference in, the course load, the requirements, and just, I would say, the very specifics, the inner workings of the doctorate degree are different. But I will say, going straight from a master's to the doctorate, being, 4 classes, and I'm like, golly, maybe I should have taken a break. Maybe I should have listened to everybody that was like, take a year and breathe. But no, I didn't. So, but it's still great. I will say, because it had me, I felt like if I didn't do it immediately, my self-discipline of my time management and being used to being in school no matter what, would have maybe been depleted a little bit, which would have been difficult for me to jump back into the doctorate program. So I will say it is nice in that aspect, for sure.
Gotcha.
I would say being, um, I feel like rolling into the doctoral program from the previous master's degree. I think it's a little bit easier because, like, you don't have that time off where you're like, oh, okay, like I'm kind of done with school a little bit. If you come into it, you're just like, okay, let's just keep knocking down the wall. Let's just keep going until we absolutely finish it, get that higher degree, and just like I'm done with it, right? That terminal degree. And um, but I kind of wanted to not change, not go back too far back, but my phone dropped a little bit. Sorry, you guys, I'm on the car. And going back to ethical leadership, where we were talking about with Brittany, and just I want to ask you, in this time and age, with the climate that we have right now in society, with police officers and being ethical, how does that pan into your mindset on how you view, like today's current events?
So that's a great question. So I think in today's current events has actually really has pushed me and has kind of confirmed my dissertation, because I first announcing it in Dr. Shu's class with you guys when we were in our residency was terrifying, because I was not completely sure of myself either. And I know I've been told, multiple times, it's a little bit of a dicey, dissertation topic that you're picking, especially like all the perfect point in today's climate, how law enforcement's viewed. I will say that with all the recent events, I feel confirmation that there's definitely a need for a study, and there's a need for someone to kind of probe around a little bit different. And my background's a little bit unique because I feel that I come from a law enforcement family. My father's been in law enforcement for over 30 years. So I've kind of grown up being very familiar and been around law enforcement quite a bit. I've seen a lot of the highlights, and I've also seen a lot of, the downsides of it, the inner workings and things where I feel like law enforcement has failed the public. And has also failed internally, their employees. Working for law enforcement currently right now, that's been something that, I've been able to see firsthand and, have been able to experience myself. So I feel that I kind of have a good balance that, I come from law enforcement while working for law enforcement, but I also, I kind of feel like I see it from both sides. So when I interpret or when I perceive different events that have happened, in today's time, I really break it down and be like, okay, well, let's put it through the eyes of what I hope my dissertation will be. Let's start looking at it from the leadership. Was that Officer A did something? Well, let's start looking up his chain of command. Was there ethical leadership? Was there ethical accountability that happened? I think that it's really with how law enforcement's viewed today, I feel like that's been able to kind of propel me into being even more passionate and realizing that there's much more of a need for that. If that kind of answers your question, longly, apologize.
No, it's good actually, because going back to what Kenny mentioned earlier, as you know, when we first started in the cohort and we started to learn each other and started off, we didn't know too much about each other, but now in understanding everyone's mindset and understanding certain characteristics of people, like there are certain individuals that I pay attention to more closely in particular classes they've had, just simply because I know kind of what, like during our ethics class, right? I was looking at a lot of stuff that you were writing because I know that that's where you're geared towards for your dissertation, and and then also like I always read what Kenny's writing. I'm always reading what Jonathan is writing, and I think ironically you three answered my last discussion post. So I love to interact with the great minds of our cohort, although we're all great minds, but I feel like you all have very interesting ways of looking at the subjects that we're covering. And anyway, I know, so our last class and then now organizational leadership, is something that I really want to pursue and look more into, because as a manager, like some of the things that we're learning, I'm plugging and playing, right? Like some of the things I'm writing about, I'm actually like going to work during the week and implementing it into how I want to run operations. And so when you all write things, it sparks something in me to kind of be like, okay, let me take that down and see how I can implement it into the weekly ops. But yeah, I just really wanted to hear your take on that. So thank you. That did answer my question.
Yeah, Brittany, yeah, that was awesome. And Alden, I really I like what you're saying too about like implementing what you're learning like immediately into your context of work. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to remember to do, is to not just try to run through the work and then kind of forget the whole reason why I'm doing the program is to, to actually have some application. And so there's so many different real world applications that I could apply now, and that's really exciting. Um,
I
yeah,
wonder, Kenny, do you feel the same? Because you're kind of in that you are in that leadership role where a lot of the things that we are learning, I guarantee you that you can apply it in your field as well. Do you do that as well?
So it's funny you say that. Every week I go in and ask them the same discussion question we get asked in class. Like the
Oh,
first week,
really?
ask them, do you think, personality and attitude, affect employee behavior? This week I said, hey, so what do you think about bias, self-control? And so I do. And then we have like little exercises based on what I learned in class and what I read from you guys, that, hey, this is, I give the best example. I said, you really want to find out how much integrity people have, which is, in my opinion, is doing the right thing when nobody else is watching. Drive through a school zone. That's all you have to do is drive through the school zone and see who's slowing down and who's not. That will tell you right there who has integrity and who doesn't. I said, so the same rules kind of apply at work. Watch your coworkers. Watch them. See what they do when the boss isn't there. That will tell you when the organization has integrity and who doesn't. So I take everything
Absolutely.
like I'm teaching a class to these people every single week.
That's awesome.
That is really good. That's really
That
good.
is.
What I've realized too is like from you guys' discussion post, like you all find some really good articles too. Like sometimes like I'll read, like if I'm reading your post and then I want to reference kind of what you're talking about and I'll start reading it. I'm like, oh man, that is solid. And then it's another one I can add to Zotero. And then like ultimately I'm like, oh man, I'm just building up this arsenal. And sometimes I wonder how you guys, I'm like, how did they find these articles? These are so good. It's like you could use them immediately. So, just get back to you guys. This writing great posts. It is really solid and it's helpful.
John, back. So if
It's not that easy to find these articles.
yeah, I would say that too. It's not that easy.
Oh, I bet. I know.
I go through 20 pages. I go through 20 pages to find one article I like. So it's not that easy.
But I will say this, kind of like what Brittany said. Sometimes, like, what's that old saying? The early bird gets the worm, or something like that, right? It's like sometimes because people can, obviously get to a discussion post sooner than others, and there's definitely people that get to it before I can. And what I'm able to do is this professor, and that's another thing. All professors are different, right? Like, not they all don't grade the same. They all don't look at things the same. And what I noticed was that this professor this week, she looked at I guess she looked at whoever did early, and she kind of like critiqued them on the spot, right? She was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this article is not old enough. Need to find a newer article or something like that." I can't remember exactly who it was, but I was like, "Oh wow!" I was like, "Okay," because I was just about to start writing my discussion post, and I was like, "Well, let me find an article that's not, 6 or 7 years old," because obviously when we're talking about um, when you're looking at works that are newly implemented that you want to be able to implement into or newly written that you want to be able to implement into your writing. uh, some professors are like, don't go older than 5 years or don't go older than 10 years, but then you learn about it like after they've already graded it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was kind of interesting to see how she graded that this week. um,
I'm with
but yeah,
you.
that's
I
kind of my
appreciated that too. I saw
Yep.
that same post. Like when I saw that she responded to one of the students, was like, "Oh, I gotta read this," and then I was like, "Oh, snap! That's great. Now I know not to do
yeah,
this part."
now I know what not
Yep.
to do.
Lesson
Right.
learned.
That is solid.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank
have,
you to
have you?
whoever taught us that lesson.
What's that?
Yes.
I said, thank you to whoever taught us that lesson.
Yeah,
So let me ask you guys a question. So, how do you guys think that the every weekday class is going? When we go online with the professor, do you think that's helpful?
I think it's helpful to
All of
those who can make it, right. Me specifically, like as an operating manager, right, in what we have going on right now, it's very hard to get to those because like sometimes we have work that comes in and it has to be attended to. So I think it's very, very helpful for those, and I would love to get to one soon, hopefully this week. Um, but for us who cannot get to it, we got to rewatch it. It's, to me, it's not as helpful because some things that when I rewatched the clips, I was like, oh man, if I was there, I would have asked this question, right, to just get more understanding for myself. So I absolutely think they are helpful if you can get to it.
right.
Yeah, I think overall, yeah, they're helpful, but in different ways. Like I think some teachers, it was helpful because it helped give you a chance to ask questions about like assignments which I always think is helpful to get like really nailed down in clarity. Um, on other classes, or I should say in other class, it was just nice to hear like a lot of different perspectives. And this was like on our ethics class, and to hear stories and everyone's perspectives on ethical issues and stuff I never really thought through, or at least from a certain angle that either the student or the teachers were able to provide. I think that was helpful in that sense. And then our most recent class was Dr. Woods. I think we'll have on here soon too. She just gave an overview again of like how to write like APAs, Otero, different. I think it's called Illicit, another tool for research, and that was really helpful. And to be able to see the different ways that we can expand our research, find more articles, things like that. So I think classes like that are helpful. I'm seeing a lot of those things too on like different webinars that St. Leo kind of posts. And sometimes I just kick myself for missing them. Like, it's right there. Just log on, put it on your calendar because this is so helpful. But things like that, even just I learned how to change Zotero's things from case settings to sentence setting or to sentence setting. I was like, oh my word, I've been like reformatting every single like word to fit, and I could have just pressed this button. But it's simple things like that that I think you get from class that you might not always get if you miss or something, you know.
I think I agree with Jonathan. I think that it's helpful in different ways. It's been really cool with some professors, like in one of our classes, how we had to get on and basically, talk about our discussion post, but a little bit different. It was more of like kind of like a personal interaction, which I thought was interesting because we got to hear, past experiences or our viewpoints, and I learned a lot from, all of the cohort members that attended. I think it was great. But I do know that, sometimes Alden, I will agree with you with working kind of in between shift work and sometimes, having to meet with night shift people and having to miss. And then, there's a little bit of stress for me of like, oh, there's a class going on right now and I'm not there. What am I missing? But I also feel super confident knowing if Jonathan's there, all the questions are going to be asked. So I'm good to go. Jonathan, I know from like day one, Jonathan's like, oh, I'm gonna ask all these questions. So if I do have
It's
to
more
miss
like,
it, I
will
know
you
it's
ever
like,
shut up with the questions? Stop. We gotta go. Stop asking. That's
No,
but
you ask
he's
the
got it.
question, but we don't have to. It's perfect.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm wondering. I'm like, I bet Jonathan's asked. Let me just text him or let me go onto the Zoom and look because I bet he asked it.
Absolutely.
But I do think
We'll see.
though,
We'll see.
honestly, I like seeing you guys more like when we do have class. That is one of the other things too, not just the teachers and stuff, to be able to connect a little bit with you guys and stuff like that. It helps build up that camaraderie and stuff a lot too. Just like this podcast and stuff, just being able to just see you all, it makes you feel part of it. I think I was telling these two guys on our last podcast that I was very close. I was under tremendous amount of stress and stuff that I had to do. It's just like workload was super high, and I was like, I don't know if I can handle it. But I couldn't get over like not being in this cohort. If I was thinking if I skip a class or if I go back, then what if I'd be in like cohort 31, 32 or something like random. I'm just like, I don't know if I can do
Who are
this.
these guys?
Like, who are you guys? And so I was like, I just can't do it. So I'm just like, I'll just drag myself to this finish line, because I mean, I want to do it with you all. And so I do think that that's a benefit. To go back to your original question, I think that is another benefit too, to being able to be on classes and stuff like that, be able to connect with you all. And so we do have new members that drop into our cohort, and that's also nice, to be able to meet them, interact with them a little bit, and literally people from all over the world. So definitely unique perspectives, and we learn from each other.
Absolutely, Jonathan. Because I will say that staying connected is huge. I mean, meeting you guys all because we're not going to meet again in St. Leo for quite a while, so it's really cool to be able to be able to talk. Because I will say you guys have been a huge pushing factor for me because I feel like I got really lucky with this cohort with all of you and just me, same thing, being under a lot of stress, having a lot going on personally, health wise. I've been like, maybe I should just take a semester off. And it's like, it just wouldn't be the same. It's not. I'm going to cross the finish line with all of you guys, and I'm invested in, everything that you do and your dissertations. And, you guys always stay so motivated. And, I got to beat Kenny at the dissertation. Like, it's constantly there. So I'm like, I got to do it. I got to stay. So I think that that's a great aspect that you brought up as well, Jonathan.
I gotta say, I'm a little disheartened that y'all's not in the class right now.
Well,
Yeah.
the cool thing about it is that he's already taken this class and he could skip it. But
I know that's why it hurts my heart because he's already got that. When y'all said that, he texted me. He's like, "Hey, enjoy the next 2 classes. I already took them at Florida or Central Florida." I was like, "Wow, bro, wow."
man, I
No, he
wouldn't
got
change
lucky.
this. Yeah, I mean, but it would have been nice to hear his perspective. But part of me is like, yeah, I could use this class. This is good. I'm glad I'm not skipping it. But I do wish he was here.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Brittany, the way you're going to beat me at getting that degree is your last name begins with B and mine begins with W. So we're going to graduate probably before
I like that.
Yeah, that's good, Penny.
That was good. That was good.
No,
Yeah, I hope.
I agree with. Go ahead.
I think we'll all become the official doctoral candidates, meaning like I think we should all finish our coursework at the same time. I think that the real race will begin on that writing portion. People always ask me, "How long is your program?" I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "It depends on how long I make it." It's like,
I always tell people, okay, so I went like I'm going to do like 3 or 4 years, but could be way wrong. Like, I want to be done as fast as possible, but and that's what too is kind of crazy. I do really well with structure. So, right now having
yes,
deadlines and being in classes, I'm like, oh, I'm thriving because, there's structure, there's deadlines, we're good. But then it's kind of when we get to that, even past our comps, comps I feel okay with. But once we get past that, I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna have to start switching to, setting my own deadlines and not letting myself, fudge on that. That's going to be really important because, I feel like that's the one thing that as a newer cohort in the doctorate program is, I would say a lot of our people that we've interacted with, senior to us, have said that, a lot of people do great in the classes, but when it actually comes to writing, that's where a lot of people struggle or, just end up not completing, not crossing that finish line. So I feel like that's a little daunting too. It's like, okay, we just got to keep this motivation up. Like we really got to, pump each other up and be supportive and be like, it doesn't matter if you're tears and all, like we're going to do this. So
that's right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have like there's groups that are formed like that
You know
help
what,
each
Brittany?
other. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I agree with you 100%, Brittany, and I just feel like ever since that first uh, dissertation defense we saw, who was it, Doctor White, I believe her name was. I really remember what her name was that we watched on her dissertation defense, but she was part of. I think she started like 2019 or something. It was something crazy like
Mm-hmm.
that. It was like 5 or 6 years ago. Do you remember when we was in class in residency?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
remember
no, I
Yeah.
watching
remember
that
that.
and then
And
remembering.
I remember her dissertation kind of, I think was like about fintech in Colombia or something like that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Was
I
come
remember
on.
looking at that and realizing in that moment there was this feeling of wanting to get to the finish line, but then in that moment when I realized that she had started her journey in 2019 and here it is, she's finishing all the way back in 2024. I was like, dang, that's 5 years. Like, you know what's crazy? I was like, I'm just going to enjoy this journey. It's
Yeah.
the ending will come, and it, you know, and those who will be with us, and may God bless those who are not. But at the end of the day, this will come to an end, and we just have to enjoy the journey. So as much as I'm wanting to be done with it, I just love moments like this. I love, you know, getting to know you all personally, and understanding what's going on in your lives, and helping you through some of those things if I can. You know, John and Kenny, we always speak. So I absolutely want it to come to an end, but until then, I'm just going to enjoy it. No pun intended, but drive into the sunset.
Yeah.
Sunset been in
Exactly.
my eyes all
Perfect,
day coming
girl.
home.
Perfect.
Great.
Oh gosh. But yeah, man, I'm with all of you guys. Yeah, I think that is the key, is to be present in this journey. And one of the things, like, we don't become doctors or doctorates for like a bunch of extra pay or extra money. I think people that really pursue this type of degree, it's like a love for learning. And
Right.
I'm trying to remember that that's why I'm here. It's like literally, like, part of my goal is to like write a book. And so I'm just like, stop, focus, listen to what you're writing, not listen, but actually know what you're writing, learn from everyone else. These are the colleagues that I might be calling you guys, like, it's like, hey, I need a story, or I need your perspective on this so I could write this, or this is it. Like, don't run away from it. It's like our end goal, we get a piece of paper, and that's great. And we get some, we can put a something on front of our name, which is great, but that's it. But everything we've learned up through this whole process is what really matters, and that's happening like right now. And so I love that, Alden. Like, we just got to enjoy that process right now.
John, you know what? I would challenge you right now. I'm not going to challenge you. I would challenge
You
you,
should.
but I'm not, because if I challenge you, I know you're gonna think about it all night. 'Cause I'm about to say something that you can really think about. I, as right now, we do not have to have that title to, do certain works, like submit works to the Journal of Management. We could do those type of things now.
Yeah.
um the only downside to that is that we have not learned all the tools yet necessary, maybe to do one. But I mean, we could, it could still be a challenge, you know what I'm saying, to do stuff like that. um but I'm not
You're
going to
right,
challenge you
man.
yet. I'm not going to challenge you yet, because I just know you would ask all the questions to see what you could do right now for it.
And then if Jonathan does it, I'm jumping on and doing it because,
Yeah, and Brittany's right
I'm
behind you
super
with it.
competitive. I'm just like, no, I'm going to do it. And then, yeah.
Well,
I
honestly,
can't
at
have
some point in
Brittany
this podcast, I was about to ask Brittany if she's submitted. I'm like afraid of the answer. Like, I feel like she's already submitted an article for a publication, and it's irking me. I'm
Brittany probably
afraid to
got a
ask.
book published at this point.
What's that? So, Brittany, have
Yep.
you?
No, you were relieved to know. No, I have not. I see the emails that come out though, and I always, think to myself like, okay, oh, they extended the deadline. Like, I wonder how long, like logically, like would it actually take? And then I'm like, oh, would it be good enough though? Like, and then I, spend an hour going in circles. I'm like, no, 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 no. You have other work. Focus, focus. But then I also think too. I'm always like, I wonder if Jonathan's thinking the same thing. I should text him and ask him because if he's going to do it, then I got to figure out it's going to have to be incorporated into the schedule.
I If I wasn't doing so many things, I would have started. But I have been inspired because another friend of mine who's also working on a doctoral program, not a friend of mine, it's my brother-in-law.
Oh wow!
He is working on his PhD, and he's required to publish 3 articles, and those articles are part of his dissertation. And
Oh,
so what made me think about was like, we can write our articles about what we're writing our dissertation on. So if we got to write the dissertation anyway, we might as well just write the article. Then we basically will, same information from the article goes in our dissertation. So you'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You graduate with a
True.
doctoral degree, you're published and everything, and you're
I
straight
like
into a
that.
assistant professorship. You know,
I like it.
Yeah, easier said than done, I'm sure. But
Now I'm going to be up thinking about, okay, let's see, what article, how can I condense this to make this work for me?
well, you have like a wide open field. I mean, the fact that you can go and research for like the topic you want to talk about or discuss in your dissertation, you can't really find anything. That means the field is just you're
Yes.
like you're have the possibility to be a seminal author right now. Like you could literally
Oh,
you can create definitions that will be used for researchers for the next 50 years because there's so many gaps in
Yes.
research in your field. So that's amazing. Like you get the chance to go to be the speaker at conferences and I can be a fly on the wall. Uh, it's just so cool.
that would be really amazing. I mean, that would ultimately be like, the goal to be able to accomplish things like that. I just got to get, I feel part of like, I feel mentally ready to do, start trying to publish things, but I also feel that there's so much more that I could still learn because, like Kenny said earlier, you look at our writing from our very first class to even now, and we're still, really shortly into it, only on class number 4, but I would be mortified if I published something that, I wrote in the first class because I look, some of my work, I'm like, oh, Brittany, that was such an undergrad level. Like, what were you doing? So I think about it now. I'm like, gosh, if I were to publish, I'm only on, class number 4, like probably class number 6, I'm going to look back and be like, oh gosh, that was humiliating. So it's kind of wanting to make sure that I feel confident with that, in my writing abilities because we're showing so much progression. Like Kenny said, it's amazing what we're learning. So I think that that's a big thing too, is just trying to consider like, are you there in your writing? Are you ready to do that? Because once it's out there and your name's attached to it, like,
It's
I'm just
always
like,
there.
oh, that's a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure.
That's true. That is true.
Any
Um,
any last words you guys want to say to our viewers?
If you're thinking about a doctoral degree, um, this is the 4th podcast. You will see more of us, and then you should be able to make a better informed decision and go for it.
love it.
I would say totally go for it. It's going to be difficult, be prepared, but go for it.
Yeah. I'll echo what everyone just said. Go for it. And when you're in it, stay present, enjoy the experience.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, having a good time. We'll see you next time.
All right.
All right,
Sounds good.
guys.
Thank you
You
guys for
all.
having me.
See you guys later.
Thanks.
Bye.